What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis. Of course, you are watching TWA Motorsports, and today, yes, we're doing it. We are going to put a trap door in the Trans Am. Now, I know a lot of people say that is the lazy way out. Don't do it. You're cutting up the car. Look, guys, this car will never be stock again. And when I say never, I mean never. And so, to me, it's something that GM should have done back in the day. You know, in the last video on this thing, we got the fuel pump out, or sorry, the tank out. And no, it's not too bad, but it's not too bad because I had the rear end out, I had the exhaust off. Those two things by themselves take a little bit of time. Now, could you sneak it out with the rear end all the way relaxed? Yeah, but you're gonna have to take a bunch of stuff out. So, in my opinion, look, it makes sense to do it like this. I went back and forth on this, but it's not just going to be some hack job where we just cut it out and then try to like bend the panel up. So I'll show you kind of what I'm thinking, but the first thing I need to do is off camera, I'm going to get all the junk out of the way and then we're going to get started. Now, once we get all the junk out of the way, basically all I had to do is just move that stuff. Obviously it's already unhooked, but I had to unplug the speakers. Now look, I'm going to attempt to do this with the carpet lean forward. I really don't want to take the sail panels out if I don't have to. Okay, so I'm going to fold the seat down. There's two little levers on that side. And then I'm going to take the T40s out. Guys, if you have I want to say they started this in 01 or 2000. Pretty sure 01. This was a part of the safety latch for a car seat. So your older ones won't have this. You won't have to mess with it. I kind of wish it didn't have them, but they're there. T40s, let's get those out of the way. See if we can get that carpet folded forward, kind of pulled out from under the sail panel so we can get it as far forward as possible. So the question becomes, can it be accomplished? Absolutely it can. Also, it gives me the ability to, I've always taken these out to replace these. I know people said that's a waste of time, but I was able to fold the carpet forward enough where we can actually get to the shocks down the road when we're going back together. But this is the area we're going to cut up. And look, there's no real structural piece to this anyway. Let me go grab the piece here that I'm thinking I'm going to be using. And it's big, but I wanted a lot of room because as you get to the point where you're using like multiple fuel pumps, right? It makes it harder to drag it in and out. So this is what I got, and I'll list it in the description down below. It's from All Star Performance. And actually it will be going this way. So yes, that's a pretty substantial hole, but I'm not going to cut a hole that big, obviously. This is your outer. Obviously that's the inner, but on the inner, I would like to short it just a little bit on the sides so I can put some foam between like the lid, because there's a seam here and I don't want a bunch of noise. So my thinking is we'll take this out, we'll kind of get it situated where we want it, and we'll figure out kind of where we want to mark it. But your pump sits right back here on this ridge, okay? So it sits here, but you need to come back at least that far and grab that ridge. So this piece is going to set right where that starts to bend. I want to show you what the kit comes with. It obviously comes with the hinge for the front. It comes with this that goes underneath, right, for something to hook to. It comes with some, what are these, Zeus fasteners, like quick connects, okay? Comes with a couple rivets, and then a couple springs. Here's what I don't understand. What is there, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So there's 20 holes, and they send you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rivets. So we're gonna have to do some, we're gonna have to find some rivets. That's fine. I've got some rivets here. I think after doing 20 rivets, it's gonna make me wish I had a pneumatic rivet gun, but this gives you an idea what we're dealing with. And we want our hinge to be on the back side, right? And it just doesn't make sense to fold it this way. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of position this where I'm thinking, and I'm gonna mark the outside of it. I tell you what, yeah, I think I am actually. I'm gonna mark the outside of it, then I'm gonna mark the inside of it. It comes like not cut all the way, so you can see there's a little tab there we got to cut, a little tab here we got to cut. But I think that's the method I want to take. I want to try to center it the best of my ability, and then just kind of figure out where my next step's going to be. But I am going to trace around the outside when I get it lined up where I want it. So I want to talk real quick before I mark this, how I lined it up. this hole, so not the first one or the outer, this one and this one, I've ran right up against this ledge, okay? So see these two ledges? I've got this one where I'll be able to grab, this one where I'll be able to grab, and that's kind of what we've got. And then I'm just kind of making sure that it's centered, or, you know, not setting crooked. Now I'm gonna trace around it. I know what somebody's gonna be thinking, oh my gosh, that hole is huge. Okay, we're not cutting that big of a hole. That's the outer, okay? Got to have a place to mount it, so we'll be coming in the width of that, and then like I said, I think we're going to come in a little more. So now I'm going to cut those tabs to separate that inner plate, then I'm going to mark the inner. Now we have the center in. I've marked it. Okay, our hole got quite a bit smaller. Now it's still really big, but like I said, let's grab this other piece. I don't want to have a gap. I mean, I'm going to have a gap in between. But when I say that, I want to come in probably at least, let's say, a ½ inch. I'm going to have to cut these. They're going to have to be there. And there's going to be no way around that. But I think maybe I should come in this amount. Let's grab the other piece. Actually, let's grab, what's this piece? Oh, no, that's the hinge. So these pieces, where's the piece that goes on the inside? I've lost it already. Knowing that this piece is going to be here, we're going to have to clear those sections. I don't want to make my cut any more complicated than it's already going to be. So what we'll do is we'll line this up with this out of the way, and we'll trace around it. So we'll know we got to come in that far for sure. This thing's going to be all marked up. Let's put this here, because this lines up with the outer shell. And we'll trace that so we know how far we need to come in there, but that's it, I think. So what we'll do is we'll measure from this to the edge of that, and that's how far I'm going to come in all the way around. And that'll give me ample room to pull a pump out of the center, okay? Even if it's a pretty good size pump, and it'll clear all my fasteners and allow me to lay a piece of foam basically between the lid and that outer shell, making sure we don't have a ton of road noise or whatnot. Here's how I measured it. I went in 1 inch on the sides. So it gives me ample room to cover anything between like the plate in there. So I'll put a piece of foam basically in the middle of this, pretty wide piece of foam. Okay, so when you open this, it's not going to be the same shape as this. It's going to come in 1 inch here, ½ inch on the top side, and then I just squared this off down at the bottom where this guy went. Okay, and you can see that I've marked it. So at this point, I'm going to be cutting here, 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 and I'm going to drill holes. I'm going to go get my punch. I'm going to punch the corners, and I'm going to drill the holes. That just makes your life easier when you get to a corner. And that's where we're going to start. Boy, are we committed now. 4 holes in the corners. I'm going to grab my vacuum and vacuum some of this up, but I think I was really wanting to use my Sawzall just because I didn't want to throw crap all over my window tint and all over the car by using the cutoff wheel. Now, if I can get the cutoff wheel to work with me and be, you know, throwing metal in a different direction, I may use it, but I'm going to grab my Sawzall. I can't be, I feel like I'm not as precise with the Sawzall, but we're going to start with it and we'll see what happens. So 4 bits later, I ended up using a jigsaw. My dad had a jigsaw. I don't actually have one. Went out and Cohen went out and got my dad's jigsaw. I bought some new metal blades, but I broke 4. Bought 4, broke 4. Just getting through this, I was kind of surprised. But so I ended up having to finish the last with the Sawzall, but it was just a little section. You can see the piece we cut out. Big hole, right? So I've taken my file and I ran up against this. The only non-straight line I have is this one, but that's not really going to matter. It's going to be covered up. I still may file down on it some, but what I'm going to do now I'm grabbing my vacuum, obviously, and vacuum some of this crap out that we've got everywhere, so we're not making a huge mess. But then we're going to try to position that thing on there and kind of see where we need to drill some holes. In placing this thing, normally what you would do is you would put this piece on the bottom, but because of the ridges here, it's never going to set flat. And so you could probably knock that flat, but it's going to push up just because of the way it's made. So that's the downside to this. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to be mounting this underneath this when we go all together. Same thing with the hinge up top. There's just no way around it. So there may be a slight bump in the carpet, but I don't think you'll probably notice. And then what I may end up doing is putting some kill mat maybe to this ledge and that ledge over the lip of this to make it kind of blend in, similar to what you do if you're doing like drywall. You kind of blend out and you don't see the high spot in the middle. So I've got it where I need it. I'm going to go ahead and start marking holes. Now that we got all the holes marked, all the holes, I use my center punch, get them lined up. We've got them all drilled. Look guys, there's a lot. Look at that. See that right there? How much play that has in it when you take that rib out. So the good news is we'll be adding it back to it with that new piece. But before we go ahead and lock this into place with some rivets, we've obviously got some areas that we need to address. Okay, one of which is like this guy here and this guy here. You know, we're gonna be laying a flat piece of metal over it. Okay, so there's gonna be a gap there, and I want to fill that gap with something. So what I did was I went and bought some 3M seam sealer, which is what you see like nastily, I call it nasty. I mean, look how bad they do as far as a job when they're seam sealing this car. And so I bought some of that, but it probably isn't going to stick real well to the paint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a Scotch-Brite over these areas here, because I'm going to put it underneath this as well. So I'm going to run some seam sealer here. I'm really going to pile it up here and then put them in between each one of these, almost like a caulking. I'm sure you could use that. The 3M seam sealer is pretty expensive. So, but I'm going to scuff this area up real quick with a Scotch-Brite, and then we will get some seam sealer on there and start locking this thing down. We are ready. I'll try to list this in the description if I can find it. I actually bought it through my body shop guy, but you should be able to get it on Amazon. But I've got it scuffed up. I'm going to pile it in these areas here. Like I said, I'm going to put it in between each one of the rivets that we're going to be putting in, but it's very important. I'm not going to be able to, well, I probably could set up the tripod, but we've got to get on the front side, like the leading edge side, we've got to make sure that we put that other attachment down there under before we rivet. Okay. Same thing with the hinge. Got to put the hinge with the hinge part facing up. I know it could put a bump in the carpet, but that's the way it's going to be. Look, you could weld this, I guess. You know, there's no tank in there. A guy could, but that's aluminum. You'd probably want a steel one if you're going to do that. They make plastic ones. They make all kinds. This is just what I chose to go with. But once we get it all riveted in place, which is going to take me a little bit of time, I'll try to cut in after I get some of the seam sealer on before I smash this into place. Once we start riveting, I'm going to let it dry overnight, but I may come back and we may have to add some to these areas, or I may go around the outside and kind of smear it down like the factory does. I've got the seam sealer on. I got to act quick, so I'm going to go grab this stuff, put it in place. Got it in, got it riveted down quickly. It's kind of hard, but I may have to drill a couple more holes for the springs, and I may have to clearance this to put the lid on and rivet it. But I tried to clean up. I'm going to keep doing this, but I am going to go ahead and put some seam sealer around the outside to try to smooth out the ledges. So like these areas here, and then all the way around, I'm just going to kind of smooth it out with my hand like the factory would do. But we got this sucker in there. Now I know what you're thinking. Holy cow, that looks like crap. And honestly, now that I'm thinking back, I probably should have put some tape here, but at the same time, it's going to be covered up. Nobody's going to see it. But what I am going to do is I'm going to make sure that, well, never mind, I already did that. I covered the inside. We're all good there. So honestly, guys, we're at this point, we're just making sure it's going to dry. I keep moving the hinge. This stuff dries pretty quick. And what's cool about it is, look, if I really wanted to go back and do it like factory, then I could paint this, because seam sealer, unlike silicone, is paintable. So we could go back and paint this if we wanted to. I don't know whether I'm going to get to that point or not, but I'm pretty happy with what I got so far. At this point, we were really close, and I thought you could see that I painted. Okay, I ran out of paint, so I stopped. But I've got some more now. I'm going to paint it. I kept moving this because you could see I got a little bit of that sealant in this. Not a big deal. But the only place I kind of screwed up is right here. And when I say that, guys, there's a spring that mounts under, well, it's not really a spring, it's like the latch portion. Mounts underneath here, and I did not allow for that when I was cutting. So what I did was I just went under there and cut like a little V where we can rivet the spring in place. But another thing I did was I went ahead and riveted these on. Okay, those go on. Looks pretty good. But at this point, I'm going to go ahead and put some paint on this back here. The other place I'm probably going to have to cut, if you notice, there is a rivet that goes here. And when we fold that down, that rivet's going to interfere. So I'm going to have to cut that portion out. I'll probably do the same, just cut a V right here. I now have the entire thing painted and letting it dry. The other thing I did was I painted the ledges of where I cut, just so, you know, that is steel, so I didn't want it to rust. So from the bottom side I painted it, and from the top just around the ledge. And you can see I've got my little piece cut out, so we should clear our rivets. The downside is the rivets that come with this kit will not fit that area, so I'm going to have to get a bigger rivet if I want to use that. If I want to go grab some bolts, I could probably do that as well. But I did go ahead and put our spring clips here in, and that's the receiving end of this whole contraption. So basically it looks like a spring, and you rivet it here, and then your clips will fasten into it. And then this is for clearance for the rivets that we use to put the actual clip on the lid. So that's why there's holes there. But that's how that works. But I'm going to let it dry, probably overnight, and see if I can come up with a good solution. Like I said, I could use bolts here. And if I can't find any rivets, that may be what I ultimately end up doing, is just using a bolt. Now I was able to get the rivets in, and everything's looking good. I did have to go back and put a little divot where the rivets land. I didn't want to shut all the way. I can't shut it all the way because the paint's still drying. But what I can do is I vacuumed all this out, got all the metal. I tried to keep a majority of it under the car, but you know, some of it got in some spots. I don't know if you guys noticed that. But what I can do now that I've wiped it all out and I vacuumed it several times, I'm going to go ahead and get the trunk carpet back in place. I think we'll be good with that. And then I'm going to let it dry overnight. We're going to put some foam in there in these areas here that I left. Remember, that's why I left them. And then once we get that, I think we'll be a little closer to finished. I'm also going to put the T-top holders in. Well, actually, this paint dried way faster than I thought, so I just put a small piece of foam on each side. You can see got a strip there, strip here, and it is closing now. So how this works is we obviously got to get this lined up, but these go down in here, and then they will snug down. I don't have a screwdriver in my hand. I'm not sure that I could do it with one hand, but you could probably use a dime. Man, that looks good. I'm still gonna let it dry overnight, and I'll show it to you in the morning when I can, you know, for sure feel good about shutting it and leaving it. Like I said, we still got some paint on the ledges. I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, let's let it dry overnight. I let this dry overnight, did some more vacuuming and cleaning, but there you have it. I will tell you, I told you that you could probably close this with like a dime or maybe a nickel or something. There is no way. These things are super snug, and they fasten really tight. But that's what we've got. I tell you what, let me try to fold the carpet down real quick so you can see kind of what it's going to look like. Hopefully it doesn't, I don't think it's going to bulge really in the center. You may see a little of it. You really don't see any of it. And look how easy the access is now. Why did GM not do this back in the day with these cars? I just don't get it. But we're finished. That is how you install a trap door and an F-body. I know a lot of people don't like doing that, but I think the bad rap that these things got are based on the ways people were doing it. They were just cutting a jagged piece out, bending it up, and then like running a couple sheet metal screws in it when they were finished. And it looked like crap. And so this is just a way better look in my opinion. So hopefully you guys did enjoy this video of the trapdoor install on the Trans Am. Next, we are going to work on getting the fuel system accomplished. I'm gonna power wash this thing. Actually, that is what I'm getting ready to do right now. Then we've got a fuel pump. We got a wiring harness. We wanna get that thing back into place. But if you did, guys, enjoy this video, I'll be listing all the stuff in the description, by the way, from the trapdoor I use. I'll try to list the rivets and the foam insert stuff. I'll try to list all that in the description. But if you did enjoy this video, like always, smash that thumbs up button. Guys, if you are not subscribed, go down, hit the subscribe button. Of course, like always, ring that bell notification. That will notify you every single time we drop a new video. And stay tuned to see what we work on next.